We realized pretty quickly that we needed to get information out. That's why we called in the PIO team. It's new, we're not used to the national attention quite this big.
Prosecutors building a case against the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students have told a judge that one of the officers involved in the case is being investigated by Internal Affairs.
Any indication that the suspect knew the victims?
That's part of the investigation as well. It won't be something that will come out at this point in time.
Kohberger's defense team also claims prosecutors are hiding crucial parts of the investigation from them that they want to see, including the genetic genealogy the FBI used to build family trees that led them to the Kohberger family.
I realize the records are sealed. I guess I'm not too familiar with how it works, but can you tell us what tip, what lead, what piece of evidence really led you all the way from Idaho to the suspect in Pennsylvania?
As I've said in the past, that's part of our investigation, and we won't be releasing that.
Prosecutors do not want to turn that information over to the defense and have asked the judge for a protective order.
In cases where an undercover officer engages in illegal activity or there are allegations of illegal activity, their identity as a police officer is typically kept confidential to protect them and ongoing investigations. The public would not be privy to these details. However, the officer held accountable for their actions through legal proceedings, these would be conducted in a way that preserves the confidentiality of that undercover status, i.e. if BK or any of the victims were undercover during their death, we would not know about it, and the court proceedings would be held in a manner that would keep those confidential. The general principle is that undercover cops' identities are protected, and they will always be protected, even if they involve illegal activities. The media and the general public will typically not be aware of this status. However, if an undercover cop does cross the line and engage in illegal activities, they'll still be prosecuted. And if that case happens to make its way into public interest under the undercover's identity, which is made up, well, then you have an undercover status being tried and the media arguing for something it's never going to get, which is the complete revelation of the legal process. Worth noting, instances which involve undercover federal deep cover agents, the same general principles apply. Their identities are rigorously protected, even in the case of legal prosecution. The nature of their work, the sensitivity of the information that they handle, and the potential risk to ongoing operations and personal safety necessitate this level of secrecy according to the United States government. If a deep cover agent were going to court for a murder and or were the victims thereof of a murder, and that murder or that tragedy became public knowledge, the public still would not be made aware of those agents' undercover statuses, even if they became aware of the criminal charges, as I believe is the case here in the Idaho 4 murders. Some people, undercover investigations is a thing of Men in Black or like Hollywood movies. I'm unsure how they think high-value targets get caught because it ain't a series of wrong turns in traffic. And a lot of the times, the highest up members of a drug organization typically don't even ride around with their product, okay? And they have fronts that help keep them from getting busted. It is human intelligence and undercover operations that land them in jail. So say I'm crazy and I'll say you're naive. And that's okay. It's a complicated world and not everyone will think about this. Not everyone will actually get into the court paperwork and see all of the indications of such a thing. Such as, why would it protect ongoing investigations to see Kohberger's registration for WSU? Why would it protect the identity of a confidential informant undercover or otherwise whistleblower to show us such a thing? Why in the world would it teach us about techniques, about police investigations that may still be ongoing? Same thing could be asked for the evidence gathered from 1122 King Road. from 1122 King Road, which is redacted under the exact same qualifications. Some people are convinced that they write this in everywhere, but they obviously don't, because plenty of other protective orders come under just the stipulation that they're private and contain information that most individuals would find intrusive. They don't have to write down everything in the kitchen sink. That's insane, and it would kind of negate the need to put subsets and subcategories in legislation in the first place. Now, why do they keep all of this from the public? Well, protecting ongoing operations. I mentioned that. Oh, okay. Revealing their true identities as an operative who has died could compromise ongoing and future operations, especially for those who have been involved in long-term missions. These connections could jeopardize other operatives and other ongoing investigations. That operative has likely worked with other undercover agents or informants whose safety could be jeopardized if that true identity were revealed. This also goes towards protecting the operative's family. The family of these operatives are often kept in the dark, and the specifics of their work are in the dark as well. This is to protect those operatives' families. Revealing the operative's true identity after death could put the family members in danger, or, get this, add unwanted public scrutiny onto certain statements that have been made when they're operatives that have families who may know, because, maybe they've been involved in investigations as well. As I went over, there was this whole picture which revealed this inside source who named herself as a member of the sorority of one of the victims. Well, turns out in one of the pictures that was posted in this article, boom, there's Kaylee's sister. We also know that Kaylee's brother went to the school as well. But this whole story kind of doesn't go together cohesively because they're all graduating allegedly at the same time, which is near about impossible even with your twin, because what are the chances that no one failed a class, or that no one had to take an extra class, or lost a credit, or took a semester off? It's damn near impossible. Very, very odd to have two kids graduating at the exact same time. It also doesn't make sense that Xana's memorial states that she was born in Post Falls, Idaho, but her autopsy report, the section we can see, called her an Avondale, Arizona native. Now, this is obviously the true point because you can actually see that Xana's car has a Arizona tag, which is indicative that obviously, most likely her dad is still living in Arizona. You can kind of see a picture of the fam together and they kind of look like they're in the desert. So this is where it gets to not making sense, is that Xana's sister goes to WSU, Xana goes to U of I, and allegedly they have a mom who is into drugs who they are practically iffy about or not in direct or a lot of contact with. They seem somewhat estranged. Maybe that's just what people are thinking, since a lot of people think because one parent is on drugs that obviously equates to estrangement, which isn't always necessarily true. However, here's what doesn't make sense. Why the hell would they travel all the way to Washington/Idaho to go to school if dad, the functioning parent, or the non-estranged parent is in Arizona? So both girls fly all the way across the country, drive all the way across the country, whatever, they go across the country and attend university in the same town near their estranged, drug-addled mother, and leave behind the dad presumably helping them pay for college? I don't know. I just see some strange inconsistencies there. Another inconsistency would be that one day I'm Googling Ethan Chapin, and I think I was talking into the mic maybe, and it wrote in Chapin. I don't even really remember. But I know that I found this picture, and myself, as well as my Google Photos, seems to notice that this is maybe Ethan's brother. And the name of this cat is Ethan Chapin with an F, which is kind of odd, and it's also kind of odd that he looks just like Ethan's brother. And this kid who had showed up in the Google images that were like this one or related to it in some way for the Google algorithms. So I click on it, it kind of looks like Ethan a little bit, and damn if he's not making a white supremacy symbol. What the fuck is that? I thought it was a really odd and strange connection. Speaking of which, we have the Bethany twin, or someone who obviously looks related to Bethany, or Bethany with a nose job, who was reported to be an informant selling cocaine behind WSU in her behind Greek Row home, as was reported. Now, on the Facebook where this was first reported by the Quad Cities Task Force, I noticed that people were like, she didn't get very much time, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out the prosecutor actually dropped the distribution charges, and she ends up with just possession charges, which are way lesser charges than actually getting charges for distributing cocaine. In Idaho, getting the one dropped is a blessing. So she gets that charge drop allegedly, and allegedly this was an informant that leads them to the Sierra Windsor. As you can see, I think Sierra Windsor looks a lot like Bethany. Funny, she has sequins. Here is Sierra Windsor, and as I go and check out her social media, she was connected or in a relationship at her time of having this Facebook with this dude here, who happens to be with some other guy, and they seem to be planting a house with surveillance. You can kind of see them playing around with it, having a good time, putting themselves on the monitor back here, and it's complete with the caption, "God said let there be a farmer." Like Jake from State Farm. A farmer is a position of an undercover agent who is responsible for cultivating a network of plants. You get it? A network of informants, or people willing to spy, infiltrate, or otherwise snitch to the government about insider activity into certain organizations. Odd connection. Well, Sierra Windsor also happens to be sisters with this gal here. Now, this can go to show you some of the chameleon-like ability of certain people. see her as a redhead and a brunette, looking quite different. Kaylee tends to have the same chameleon-like ability, as was pointed out by one of my dear members. Now, among the diversion motive, let's talk about the elimination theory, where agents who have been deep cover, undercover, infiltrating, and let's assume that their identities were discovered. These agents' elimination would create a strong message to other agencies and serves as an intimidation tactic to dissuade further infiltration and investigations into their activities. We also have the retaliatory nature, the deaths as an act of retaliation. If the agents were instrumental in disrupting operations misconduct, capturing or even killing key members of the cartel or the operation, they could have been targeted purely for revenge. Also have the asset protection theory, where agents who have been close to uncovering significant intelligence about certain operations' key members and or future plans. In an act to protect those assets, violence ensues. Then we have the overall distrust, that agents working as double agents were suspected and have become untrustworthy, or that their covers were about to be blown, and in turn, they are eliminated. In terms of dollars, what motive would the public officials here gain? Well, they would for one gain the overtime, which has notably been put in here. They would notably gain $1 million, possibly gain more from the contract that they already earn yearly through the University of Idaho.
And I know there's been funding from the governor to aid in the investigation, so how is that money being used?
It's still ongoing, and that's actually at a level a little above me. I just present the numbers to our city supervisor and to the mayor, and then they work with the governor to determine that.
So, and I'm still familiarizing myself with all of the aspects of this, but when did that funding come in?
So that was probably 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, maybe even, when I think Colonel Wills announced that there would be some money made available. So we're just working through the processes of, where it goes and how it's used.
Information out to people and the media. I know there was some criticism at the beginning about how quickly information was coming out, and the idea that there was not an ongoing
Yep.
threat to the public, and then people were concerned that there was not a suspect under arrest, and
Right.
that.
So I take responsibility for information not getting out as fast as possible. I probably should have been much quicker on that, but in the beginning of these, we're a small department, so everybody's working on this case, and me to be included. But we realized pretty quickly that we needed to get information out. That's why we called in the PIO team.
A public informations team refers to PIO teams, and these individuals are responsible for communicating the most accurate and timely information to the public during a crisis or a high-profile event. A POI team may be leveraged to maintain control over the narrative presented to the public. By carefully crafting public statements and controlling the release of information, this sensationalized crime, the POI team can keep the public and media focused on the current event rather than other potential events. However, in a democratic society, the bigger thing to note here is that law enforcement is held accountable by public and the press. Therefore, the scenario where law enforcement begins to only record or give statements from a police station and not in front of equal press aids in their tendency to control the narrative, their control over the narrative, by only recording or giving statements from the police station, obviously a tighter grip. They can choose to make statements, how much information to release, and in what context. They can avoid tough questions that journalists can often ask and maintain their image management.
What kind of progress has been made regarding the search for information about the white Hyundai Elantra?
We have looked at massive amounts of video footage, especially in the critical camera areas.
This approach should naturally lead to criticism, but overall, we've not seen any journalists take them up on this, that they eventually quit having press conferences altogether, and all we get is Fry and his captain and the same chick asking questions. Now, the great part is that we can go over this and see what narrative they're pushing and get a better explanation as to the why and what they want us to believe exactly. As soon as an informant doesn't want to cooperate with police, the entire cover is blown. They're going to go blow the whistle, tell everyone that the feds wanted them to turn, and then boom, everyone knows there's undercovers in the midst. Is this what happened before the MPD shows up at the house and wants to know everyone who lives there, and everyone who cops to living there later turns up murdered? I don't know, but I think it's an interesting question. Now, these corrupt agents are particularly dangerous for undercover operatives trying to bust them. Due to their ability to be able to manipulate evidence, this can involve being able to plant evidence, falsify reports, falsify records, give false testimony. Bad agents provide false testimony and statements which implicate the good agents in wrongdoing. They misuse their authority. Corrupt agents, especially those in position of power, might misuse their authority to target the innocent agent, such as launching unjustified internal investigations. They can scapegoat the good agents. In cases where corruption is discovered within an agency, the guilty parties might try to deflect blame onto an innocent. It's important to note that such actions are illegal and could obviously lead to severe penalties if discovered. Big if. Alright, innocent bystanders could be hit with a mountain of manipulation evidence, false testimony, and misuses of authority in order to be scapegoated for crimes. You kill two birds with one stone. They got rid of an agent and boom. They also fill the media with sensationalism. Now, why would this be a motive? well as a diversion technique. Could it be a strategic move used in various fields? I think it has been used, including politically and in law enforcement, to distract attention away from controversial issues or misconduct. The goal is to shift the public's focus towards a different, often more sensational topic. Here's how it might work in the context of a quadruple sensational crime. If corrupt individuals or groups within law enforcement wanted to divert attention away from their misconduct, they might orchestrate or allow high-profile crimes to occur. These could be dramatic events that grab headlines and dominate news cycles. Then they begin to manipulate the media, and individuals who have connections within the media use their influence to ensure that these crimes receive substantial coverage. This could involve leaking information, granting exclusive interviews, or other tactics to shape the news and the narrative. The public fear and outrage against these sensational crimes will often generate strong emotional reactions, further drawing public attention away from other issues. This fear and anger and sympathy for the victims can all serve to distract the public. Ongoing investigation excuse. If questions are raised about misconduct, these individuals, well, they have a big investigation going on. And I guess this sensational crime needs to be solved so much that they have to delay or avoid addressing allegations altogether. However, it's important to note that these tactics are unethical and illegal. They represent a gross abuse of power and can have severe consequences. Moreover, they severely damage the public trust in law enforcement. Obviously, this is kind of fundamentally the issue we have in America right now with social order and justice. A diversion technique, a strategic move used in various fields. So this team of corrupt individuals, well, they'll have a person of interest and they'll focus on this individual or individuals believed to allegedly be involved in this sensational crime. And the team will monitor, investigate, and gather evidence on this individual. And in the context of a diversion scenario, this team might be directed to focus on the sensationalized crime and a sensationalized defendant. As for the information on the internet, the influx of news and articles about a sensational crime floods the search engines, making it more difficult for the public to find information about other issues, including misconduct. This is due to how search engines work. They rank search results based on relevance and popularity, among other factors, such as the fact that journalists will just be typically covering those other crimes less, and the sensational crime more. And it often leads to a surge in related content from news articles, social media, posts, blogs, and Avi forum discussions. This content quickly dominates the search engine results, pushing other topics down the list. Even with advanced search techniques, finding information about less publicized issues can be challenging and, as is mentioned, less covered in general. This is but one way that media manipulation can contribute to diversion strategy. By ensuring a crime receives widespread attention, those looking to hide misconduct can make it harder for the public to find information. Sometimes these might begin to come to light once interest wanes, or investigative journalists, whistleblowers, or other oversight bodies uncover certain misconduct.
Touch DNA that was found on the knife sheath laying next to Maddie Mogen's body. Why wouldn't you just say, only counsel can view this information, but we're going to turn it over? Why do you think that the prosecution is so loath to turn this over, James? Because I would think that this would be pretty discoverable. This would be kind of like Exhibit A of discovery that should be turned over. This is how you found our guy. This is how you determined or figured out or tried to find out that my client was the suspect. So why would they not want that information turned over? I understand they're saying, oh, we want to protect the identity of all these other relatives, but Doesn't that seem like something that should be turned over?
It does. And again, that's where I use my fox guarding the henhouse analogy. They're basically saying, trust the fox who's guarding the henhouse to say he's not going after the hens without checking on the hens yourself. And even just real basic. Remember when we did math class when we were going up in school, it was always show your work. How did they get to that conclusion? The state definitely needs to turn that over so the defense can adequately investigate that. Given that this is a death penalty case, if the judge doesn't let the defense look at that stuff, he's asking for reversal on appeal.